new to the neighborhood, yeah, I don't know. How do you get started on YouTube? You just start, right? So here goes. I've been wanting to share this story for like almost a year now, right? So last year I needed to take um, my lessons master social worker board exam. And so let me give you a little backstory. So I graduated my master's in 2022, and so I wanted to, take my initial board license so I can start practicing. Anyways, I PCS from Germany around this time. Actually, I flew in on this same day last year this time. And for those of you who understand what military life is like, when you have to move and you have to move across continents, it can be so tedious, especially when you're doing it on your own. So it was just a really, really stressful time, but I knew I wanted to get my board exam over with. So I paid for it and started to try to study and brush up on my content and all that stuff. So I scheduled the test, and as the time is coming up closer and closer to the test, I'm starting to feel like the information is not connecting. Like, have you ever been studying and you're reading the information and you just don't feel like you're digesting it the way that you need to? So I was feeling that way, but I'd already paid, so I was gonna test, right? So I started to do like these practice tests, and one of the practice tests that I did, the score was not great. So it's like a few days before. So I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and reschedule. Let me go ahead and push my date. So I go online and I reschedule my test, or I think I did. And I take a picture of like the final page and I send it to my friends. So like, hey, I went ahead and rescheduled my test. And in that moment, I did not realize that I was supposed to scroll further down, further up on the page to hit like a final confirmation. So days leading up, so like the day before my new scheduled date, I'm like, wait a minute, I noticed I haven't gotten any like reminder confirmation emails that I have my test tomorrow. So I'm searching through my email, I can't find anything. And so I log into the site and it says I was reported to the board as a no-show for the test. And it was not the news that I needed to hear during that time. I was so upset and so hurt that I didn't even cry. And because I was mad at myself. Like, who was I going to be mad at besides myself, right? And when I told my best friend about it, he had enough sense not to make a joke about it. Like, we talked about it later, which I'll tell you about. But he had enough sense in that moment not to make a joke about it. I felt so defeated and so disappointed in myself. And I was already so stressed out from the PCS, right? So I let a month go by and I decided, like, it's okay because I lost that money. Once you pay for the test, that money is gone. It's non-refundable. So I decided to pay for the test again and schedule myself. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take the test. Because what I was most upset about the first time around was if I'd taken that test and not passed, at least I would have had an idea of what the test was. So I would have rather have taken the test and failed than to have lost out on that money and that opportunity completely. Anyways, my God is a big God and he don't make mistakes. So I rescheduled the test, and the days leading up, I'm listening to the content. I'm, preparing myself. I'm taking the practice test. I'm breaking down how to answer the questions just to prepare myself. So the day before, I decide on what I'm going to wear. I Google the location to get an idea of traffic. And, excuse me, everything was okay. Everything was going to be great. It was fine. Everything was all set. I was prepared. So the morning of, I'm running like maybe 10 minutes behind. And what I didn't realize is the test, I scheduled it for 8 o'clock. but I'd never left my house in the morning after 7 o'clock before. So it was completely different traffic. So I leave my house usually around 6:30, 6:35 to get to work by 7, and the roads are usually pretty clear, right? But at 8 o'clock, there's school buses and people going to work and all this traffic that I didn't factor into my travels. So after I get dressed, and remember I'm already like 10 minutes behind. After I get dressed, I I go to my car and I plug in the address for this place, and GPS said I wasn't gonna get there till like 8:10. Ah! I started to cry, like full on bawling my eyes out, like, oh my God, like, and in that moment I was like, what do I do? So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to this test and I'm going to beg them. I'm just going to beg them to let me take the test. I'm going to cry if I need to. I'm going to say, hey, I'm in the military and I just couldn't get away. Whatever story I had to tell, I was going to tell so I could take my test. So I'm driving in the car, and every time I hit like traffic and we're at a standstill, I cried some more. I just kept bawling my eyes out. I was praying. I was just like, God, please, please get me to this test on time. So at this point, I'm not even praying to please let me pass. I'm like, God, please, please help me to get there. And I go through this whole psychological breakdown of myself. I'm like, why didn't I plan better? Why didn't I get up sooner? And then I go through this whole state of imposter syndrome where I'm like, who do I think I am? What makes me so special that I think I can be people's therapist? What makes me qualified? What makes me think I'm good enough? So I'm spiraling. I'm in the car and I'm spiraling. I'm going through all of this. Like, what's so great about me? Why didn't I plan better? Am I unconsciously trying to self-sabotage? Am I not ready for the next step in my life? Am I not ready to make this my career? I'm going through all of this as I'm listening to the content for the test play on my car. And I'm crying and I'm crying and I'm crying, and traffic is happening. And every time it stops, I'm crying some more and I'm praying. I am just going through it in the morning. So I'm praying. And remember, initially I said GPS said I would get there 8:10. Baby, I didn't get there till like 8:30. 8:30, right? So I get in there and I say to this lady, my eyes are red because I've been crying, and I'm on the verge of tears again because I just know she's going to say no. So I get there and I say to her, hey, I'm so sorry I'm late. And then she says, what test are you taking? And I tell her I'm taking the LMSW. And she said, okay, put your stuff in there, and gave me the instructions for sign this form, the non-disclosure agreement, and let's do fingerprinting. And I was like, oh my God, look at God. I am in the car on my way spiraling, and God had already declared that, baby, you're going to take this test. So I get in there, I'm nervous as hell. I try to calm myself. I say a little prayer. Once I'm sitting at the computer, I've got all the instructions. I say a prayer. I write down all the things that I want to remember. And then I start doing this test. And I kept telling myself, it was a 170 test question. And I was like, I'll take a break halfway through. But then I kept pushing. And I was like, I'll take a break at 100. And I was like, no, I kept pushing. I'll take a break at 120. And I kept pushing because I really like multiple choice tests because I know that the answer is there. But I get fatigued after like 50. But something within me kept saying, keep going, keep going, keep going. So I answer all the questions, right, before I take a break. I'd already marked the ones that I wanted to recheck before the test was over. I get up, I take my break, I go to the bathroom, I have a little sip of water, and then, I come back in and I finish the test and I submit. When I submit, I'm expecting that my score is gonna come up on the screen right away. It's like loading, and I'm sitting on pins and needles. My heart is beating so fast. I can feel it. I can physically feel my heart beating. I'm just, oh my God. I'm so overwhelmed. And a survey pops up. A fucking survey pops up asking me, like, what study materials did you use? What was your study method? And I'm answering those questions like, why are you asking me this? This doesn't matter. What is my score? And then I submit that survey. It starts to load again. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is it. I think a second survey pops up. And I'm like, at this point, the universe is playing with me. Like, why are these people playing with me? I submit that final survey. And I'm like, okay, now it definitely has to be my score. It says, go to the attendant for your score. How much can I take at this point? So I go to the attendant to get my test scores. I do my fingerprint again and, give her my ID. And let's go back a little bit. Have you ever, like, when you were in school coming up, like in grade school, primary school, high school, whatever, when you take a test and you get your test score back from your teacher, if the score is bad, they usually fold the paper. Now, I ain't no fold paper kind of girl. I get my scores straight up like so, right? And no offense to those of you who have gotten scores folded or whatever. It's whatever. It's just the teacher's choice to do that. But I had never gotten that before. So when I go to the attendant, she is poker face, like this. No smile, no smirk, no nothing. She hands me a folded paper. And my heart sinks because I am convinced in that moment that I failed. There is no way. Because why would you hand me a test folded? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to cry. Yes, I'm a crier. You will learn this over time about me. Nothing's wrong with crying. It's actually very relieving. So I hold up the paper. You know when some paper is just like thin so you can see the printed words through the paper? And as I'm about to cry, as I'm about to die inside, I'm looking at the paper. I didn't open it, and I see like PASS. And I like, okay, I need to open this paper. So I open the paper. Oh my God, cue the waterworks. Cue the waterworks because I passed. I actually passed. Okay? Like, I follow a couple of Facebook pages, and there's plenty of people that say, oh, they passed on their first times, but there is an enormous amount of people that they have serious test anxiety, and they're like on their second, third, fourth, fifth tries. And to know that I passed on my first try against all odds, got there late, was just in an emotional and mental state over this test. And I passed. I was crying. I was thanking God, like, God showed up and showed out for your girl. And, remember I told you that lady had a poker face? When I started to cry and I finally saw my score, this is when she smiles. This is when she smiles. And she's like, oh, congratulations. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Lead with that. You could have led with that smile and that congratulations when you gave me that score sheet. Ma'am. So, yeah, that's the story of like when I took my test. After, I cried and I told her thank you, and I grabbed my stuff. I got to my car. I cried some more, and I gave God thanks. I was just so moved by him. And then I called my best friends and I let them know that I passed the test. And yeah, a day that started out like in such high stress ended with such beautiful news. And that's the story of when I took my my LMSW. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope to share more about me with you and build our community and get to know each other.